Hi, this is M.H. Bonham, and I am going to read to you today from my book, That Dragon Was in No Way My Fault. Um, it is available for free on Amazon and other venues. If you would like, you can go over to my website at www.ironspellchronicles.com and pick up a copy there. So awesome. I'm reading from it today, so you'll be able to get an idea. And this is the first book in the Iron Spell Chronicles, which incidentally is a 9-book series. So please pick up a copy. Iron Spell, watch out. That dragon is behind us. My partner and mentor, Officer George Talon of the Denver Police Department Supernatural Unit, DPDS, grabbed my arm and shoved me toward the Denver Zoo's Elephant House, presumably to get us behind something, anything, before the dragon could take pot shots at us with his breath. Yeah, I'm talking a real life fire drake, not one of those cheap knockoff versions that have flooded the market in recent years. Sure, the knockoff dragons are pretty impressive as dragons go, but you can always tell they're cheap because they only have 3 or 4 claws instead of the traditional 5 on their feet. Some even have 2 or 1 claws. I mean, how impressive is a dragon with just 1 claw per foot? The poor things can barely stand, and even Denver Animal Control won't take them anymore because they have too many to put down already. Where was I? Fire drakes, right. The dragon soared above us as people screamed and ran in terror towards the exits. Trust me when I say a handful of cops and park security is no match for hordes of frightened mothers pushing baby carriages with their prodigy and making for the nearest exit. All this on account of a mad sorcerer and a rampant dragon. The loudspeakers blared throughout the zoo, giving directions on how to evacuate in an orderly fashion. Only no one was listening. Talon had chosen the Denver Zoo as a rookie training spot because, other than petty theft and the occasional assault, not much really happens there except the occasional lost urchin. Seeing as I was the rookie, I went along with the choice and figured we'd get some Dippin' Dots ice cream and watch the animals. The zoo just opened up a new supernatural exhibition house, which included the said dragon, which was now chasing us. The dragon screamed and shot a stream of fire at us as we barely made it to the pachyderm house. It overcooked the sidewalk into a bubbling goo and set the grass on fire, but narrowly missed us. Some of the flames made it to the wall we sought shelter by, but just scorched it slightly. My name is Bob Ironspell Cabas, and I'm a magic user and a rookie cop just out of the academy. I tried to get into the Denver Wizard Task Force, DWTF, but I didn't have enough cred or formal training, apparently. So I took the next best thing, and that was DPDS. I meant I could use some spells to handle supernaturals, but dragons were out of my league and the DWTF were supposed to take over. That was more than 40 minutes ago by my watch. At this point, it was I was wishing I had the latest copy of Wizardry Today, sorry about that, which had a plethora of good dragon taming spells in their issue. But alas, that issue was at home, and not with me, not even in her patrol car. This was my third day as a rookie cop, and I wanted to make a good impression. You know any dragon spells? Talon asked, as if reading my mind. He knew I used magic, and came from a long line of powerful wizards and mages. But we hadn't really gotten into specifics, other than seeing me use magic to bust an orc for snatching an old lady's purse. I really hadn't been too showy with my spells. I shook my head. I had just come across some in a magazine I just got the other day. I was going to look at it. Seriously? Talon was a big guy, and I'm not tiny at 6 foot flat, and remarkably fit for a veteran. I guess he was around 40 years old because he had a few grays among his brown regulation cut hair. He frowned. You think you could cast some of those spells if you had the magazine? Yeah, probably. I watched the rhinoceros, not far from us, bolt and charge indoors as the dragon shot another stream of flames across the sidewalks. Luckily, everyone had fled and we were alone. Unfortunately, that meant we were also on our own. The dragon spotted something on the other side of the park and swooped towards it. I sagged against the wall of the pachyderm house and eyed Talon suspiciously. What are you suggesting? That we take out the dragon ourselves? Chapter 2. But we're supposed to wait for DWTF or Denver what the fuck or whatever, I objected. I distinctly remembered being told that DPDS officers handled level 1 or level 2 threats. Dragons, which were level 9 threats, were right out. Talon shrugged. They take their time getting to wherever there's a real problem. We're on our own until then. Unless you can come up with a way for us to get the hell out of here, we probably need to take care of the dragon and the sorcerer ourselves. But I'm not a wizard, at least not yet. Come on. We've got to get to the soup animals. They sell wizard magazines in the Magical Zoo gift shop. I think it was Wizardry Today. I'm pretty sure they would have it. They wouldn't have it, rather. I saw it on the rack in there last week when I took the kids to the zoo. You sure about that? Pretty sure. Talon led the way. I followed, looking into the sky and feeling apprehensive. The dragon could come around at any moment. I hadn't lied to him when I told him that I could probably cast the spells and tame the dragon. But the problem was getting the magazine without getting charred. Maybe it was me. But I didn't relish the idea of taking on a fire drake, not to mention a demented sorcerer. Talon's police radio crackled. Talon here. Officer needs assistance at the werewolf exhibit. Says there's a number of civilians trapped in the lycanthrope house and the wolves are agitated. Oh, great. Could it get any worse? I asked, as we hugged the structures and hoped that the dragon wouldn't catch us while we were out in the open between buildings. Rule number 1, rookie. Never ask if it could get any worse, because it always does. Talon had a grim look on his face. Whoever thought it'd be a good idea to have shapeshifters in this exhibit need to have their head examined. Half of the Denver population aren't vaccinated against lycanthropy because of the stupid anti-vaxxers. So they get all pissy when little Johnny gets bit by a werecat and starts craving tuna and mice. And the doctors can't do a thing for him now that he's got the disease. I snorted and shook my head. One of the requirements of being a Denver cop was having your lycanthropy, vampirism, and undead vaccinations. While it wouldn't save your life from being mauled, drained of blood, or having your brains gnawed on, it prevented you from being turned and thus made a nuisance. Most anti vaxxers were against administering these vaccines. Someone went so far as exposing their kids to shifter or undead bites in the neighborhood parties so that their kids would acquire immunity. Predictably, these parties never ended well. Kids got mauled, turned into zombies, or later came down with the full fledged disease. Some people never learn. We made it to the gate which led to the magical zoo. It promised all sorts of wondrous creatures on the signposts. One of the more ambitious zoo projects. I had to admit they had a nice selection of creatures. Kelpies and selkies peered up from their pools and then dove back down, presumably to stay out of the dragon's sight. I saw a small herd of unicorns under a large cottonwood looking up at the sky. We passed by the Kappa and Baka Neko displays, as well as a large cage with two phoenix. Just as we rounded the corner to get to the lycanthrope display, and incidentally the magical zoo gift shop, which was attached to the lycanthrope house, we heard a loud screech overhead. The dragon swooped over us, its claws, 5 on each foot, mind you, bearing down on us both. Excendet quoque scuta, I shouted, putting as much will as I could muster into the words. No sooner had I said that than a translucent blue bubble stretched over me and Talon. The dragon's claws scraped harmlessly against the magic shield, arcing with black and purple lightning where they made contact. Good thinking. Talon smacked me on the back, hard enough to make me stumble as we ran to the doors. It won't hold up long to dragon fire, I said, as a wannabe wizard and a police academy trainee. The first incantation they pound into you is a shield spell. I took the magic user track, which gave me some leverage against minor threats. But this? Nobody said I'd be dancing with dragons. As if on cue, the dragon whipped around and breathed fire. I managed to tumble inside as my shield failed, and Talon screamed as his uniform caught fire. Nunc aqua! I shouted, and water doused us both. I grabbed him despite his protests and pulled him deeper into the exhibit hall. The cold breeze from the building's air conditioners caused me to shiver as I half dragged, half carried Talon inside. When I stopped, I set Talon down slowly and assessed his injuries. They were bad, really bad. It took me everything I had to not throw up. His skin on his face, neck, and exposed arms were bloody and burnt. Blackened skin peeled off him like flakes. The flames burned his expression along half his face into a weird scowl, and part of his lips were missing. He needed help. More help than I could possibly give him. Talon had thankfully passed out some time when I dragged him here, otherwise he'd be screaming and in a world of hurt. Shit, we need to get you to a hospital. But what EMTs would be brave, let alone survive a loose fire drake? I keyed the mic to my police radio and found the dragon fire had fried the circuitry. Never mind what I must have looked like. My face felt like I'd been out in the sun way too long, and my arms and hands were beet red. Just when I was wondering how things were going to get worse, I heard growling. And that, my friends, is the end of chapter 2. There are at least 2 chapters in here. So, more chapters, I should say. So, pick up your copy of, let's see here, get my cover here. Pick up your copy of that dragon was in no way my fault by going to www.ironspellchronicles.com and click on it, and you'll be able to get your own copy for absolutely free and finish reading the rest of this story. Thank you so much. Hope you're having a wonderful time at this virtual Mile High Con. Thanks. This is M.H. Bonham.